Hi, my name is Carrie Miller. I've been a dog behaviorist since 1994. I've worked with dogs from 8 weeks on up to the oldest dog I ever trained, who was 14 years old. I've worked with basic obedience and simple behavior issues like jumping up and running out the door, all the way to severe separation anxiety, severe aggression, dogs who don't seem to be able to be housebroken. The problem between humans and dogs, generally speaking, is the human's fault and not the dog's fault. The problem is that human beings do not take the time to understand that dogs don't think like humans. Human beings want emotional satisfaction and fairness out of their relationships. And what dogs want is consistency and safety. When the human does not act in a way that is consistent, the dog can become very anxious, aggressive, might start taking charge of the situation himself. And this is where a lot of behavior issues come from. Dogs don't have a sense of time, and they can't think ahead. For instance, I hear all the time that, oh, he knew I was going to be mad when I got home if he ate my $150 loafers, and that's why he ate them. But the dog doesn't have the capacity to think, oh, last time I did this thing, he got mad at me, so if I do it again, then he's going to be mad at me in the future, and then that's going to show him. That would take an understanding of past, present, and future. It would take an understanding of human beings' emotional thought process, and it would also take the ability to be a bit on the maniacal side, and dogs are none of those things. When dogs chew, it is usually because they're frustrated with the situation. For instance, in separation anxiety, when the dog feels he's higher in the pack than the human and the human leaves, the dog doesn't understand that because a lower case pack member would never leave the safety of a higher case pack member. So then when the dog starts chewing, the dog is chewing something that smells like the owner because that is the person they're missing. And the chewing helps to release a chemical called dopamine into their brain, which helps them to calm down and feel better. Digging is the same issue. Oftentimes barking is because the dog is frightened to be by themselves and don't feel secure in their environment, and so they bark incessantly in an effort to try to keep people away from them. A lot of the improper corrections include yelling, hitting, and shaking a loud can of coins at a dog, which I know a lot of dog trainers suggest. But the problem is that all of these things create fear in the dog. And especially with loud noise, I'd like to concentrate on that one because other dog trainers do suggest that once in a while. And the problem with a can of coins is that you may startle the dog and you may get the dog to stop what he's doing for an instant. But if he doesn't go back to it, it's because he's become afraid of it. That's not necessarily a good way to go through life. You wouldn't want to discipline your children by making them afraid of everything they shouldn't do. They should simply understand appropriate choices and what's accepted into the environment and what's not accepted into the environment. The other problem with it is if they're not afraid of the noise. For instance, I had a black lab who you could start with a can of coins, but you'd have to start with you'd have to end up with a huge chain shaking it right in his face in order to get him to listen because he simply wasn't afraid of loud noise. It's not a good communication method. What you want from your dog is you want to be able to communicate in a way that's comprehensive to him, in a way that's non-threatening to him, and in a way that offers your attention and voice as a reward rather than food. Food is a bribe, your voice and attention are a reward for compliance. The first thing that the dog should understand is that the word no means to do something physical. It means stop what you're doing and back away. And if the dog will do that every time, you've got 50% of the issue solved. The other 50% of the issue is getting the dog to not commit that behavior in the first place. And that comes from habit and instinct, which is what you need to instill in the dog, is a sense of habit through his instincts. You want to make the rules the same every time. You want to use the same words every time. If you use different words or one time you want to compromise on the rules, dogs don't understand that either. You can tell your child one time, you know what, you can stay up till midnight tonight and that will be fine. But if you tell your dog that, they'll stay up till midnight every night. So you want to make sure that you keep the rules the same, and really, no is really all you ever need to tell your dog. If you tell the dog no and walk the dog away, they will eventually get the idea. But what you have to understand is that a dog's memory is about 30 seconds long. If you haven't caught the dog in the act, you cannot take the dog back and discipline the dog for an previously committed behavior and have the dog understand what you're trying to tell him. Always, always, always praise your dog for listening to you, even if you have to make the dog follow through. For instance, if you are going to make the dog go outside and you say outside and then you take him by the collar and you put him outside, you still should pet and praise him so he understands that word goes to that action, and if he does that thing, he gets praised for it. What you want to do in communicating with your dog is establish proper pack order. That means that you are higher in the pack than the dog. This means the dog should not be physically as high as you, for instance on the couch or in your lap. The dog should leave after you when you go outside. When you walk with the dog can be ahead of you on the walk, but when you walk out the door, you should go before the dog. You should eat before the dog. The dog should not come and demand attention from you. You should offer it when he's done something wrong. When he's done something correctly, or when he is not and has not been seeking your attention for a few minutes. That way he understands he's lower in the pack. This causes in him a desire to be compliant and an understanding that you're higher in the pack and you'll take care of things. You want to make your voice and attention valuable to the dog, and what this means is you want to watch how much you talk to the dog and how much you praise the dog, because if you talk to him and praise him all the time, it's like throwing 20s at your kid 20 times a day and then saying, hey, I'll give you $5 to go mow the lawn. He's not going to be interested in mowing the lawn if he's got a pocket full of money you gave him for doing nothing. So remember that your voice and attention are a commodity and should be offered accordingly to the dog. You want to make your dog feel safe, and you want to create the desire to be compliant in your dog through these. The rules to live by in order to keep your dog happy with you are to take his food and toys away from him on occasion. Now I know that sounds weird, but if you're higher in the pack, those food and toys belong to you. And if you ever have small children around, you want to make sure that he's not going to get upset when you take his food or toys. And you can praise him for giving them to you and give them right back immediately. Remember that the amount of excitement your dog shows at your coming home is probably equal to the amount of anxiety he has when you leave. It's best if when you come home you don't pay much attention to the dog until you've gotten in and he's calmed down, and once he's calmed down, then go over and greet him calmly. And he'll learn to be calm when you come home, and he will accordingly learn that he can be calm when you leave. Watch how much you verbalize with the dog, as I said before, because your voice and attention are important and you don't want them to become inconsequential. And always remember that consistency is the key to everything with your dog. Stay consistent. It is better to walk away when you are angry and lose a training opportunity than lose your temper with your dog. The opportunity will come along again, I promise you. And the most important thing is to remember the command from God in Proverbs 12:10. A righteous man cares for the needs of his animal. Thanks.